Narcissistic and presumptuous. That's what I was called this week. Someone left a comment. I had to think, why? Let's reconnect. I think it might be to do with the fact that on my header, how do I summarise the content of my channel for new people coming and visiting for the first time? I put wisdom teaching and conscious living. And then I said Reconnective Healing live every Friday, which is what I intend to do. If you're new here, please try and join me, 2 p.m. UK time. I'll be there and it'd be lovely to see you too. Now, if this person was thinking I was claiming to be a wisdom teacher,
I am really wise and I'll give you all my teaching,
then of course that would be presumptuous. What it refers to, if you're not aware, if you are wondering what it's all about, is that wisdom teaching is a genre. It's a tradition of what we might call esoteric. Esoteric means hidden, and it's like looking for the inner meaning to these ancient texts, that if you go a bit deeper, delve a bit deeper and ask for inner guidance, you find the inner meaning, you unlock the treasure, you find the pearl of great price, the treasure hidden in the field, all of that. And Jesus was a wisdom teacher. Now there is a version of Jesus, who he was, what his life was all about, and his teaching that we are familiar with in the West, that has been presented and promoted by the church. And that's one version of the story. But there is another way of understanding Jesus, which is to see him as a wisdom teacher. And a lot of what he says, it has all the characteristics. His teachings have the characteristics of wisdom teaching. He taught in parables. So we're not meant to take him literally. We're meant to see it as a story or an analogy that gets us close to something that cannot be named, cannot be... we can't go to it directly, let's just say. We can't go direct to it, so we circumnavigate it by language and story that we are able to access and process. But at some deeper level, the soul knows, and the understanding happens. So it's an inner, deep journey, and we just can't put it into words. It's the way of the mystic. You know, I heard a quote, it just came to mind. Only yesterday I read Karl Rahner. He was a Catholic theologian, I believe, but a quote from him, he said, "The future Christian is a mystic or does not exist at all." And I think Rahner was a prophet. He wrote that decades ago. I don't know when he was writing, in the 50s or 60s, but you know, this is the way we're going. People are leaving institutionalized religion. They're leaving the church. They're questioning the faith beliefs that they were brought up with. I'm talking about Christianity because that's what I know. I'm sure it's happening in other religions too. Because there is this, well, people see it as a negative thing. They see that we're just becoming more secular, and it's that we're, you know, it's the way of atheism and worldliness and the philosophy of relativism that's seen as a threat to religion, threat to objective truth, just this subjective whatever we want, liberalism, neoliberalism, I don't know. Now you see, I don't think this is a negative thing. I think that this is about people being called to a deepening. This is all part of this consciousness shift that is happening. And it's touching everybody, and including people who are already practicing a religion. They will be drawn home to the mysticism that's at the source or heart or origin of all faith traditions. So it's no surprise. And I in particular like looking at this book, Wisdom Jesus by Cynthia Bourgeault. I have used it before. I dip into it from time to time because it gives us Jesus in his historical context as a wisdom teacher. So we look at the parables and teaching, and then we try to think, what is it that he was trying to say? And he's a teacher of enlightenment. He's a teacher of the way of truth, the way of ascension, enlightenment, and his life and teaching is a model for us. So that's my understanding now, and my own journey has brought me to that understanding, and I share that among other teachings. Sometimes the non-canonical teachings, Gnostic teachings, that would be called Gnostic Gospels. Gnostic from the Greek word meaning knowledge, and it refers to an inner knowledge. So again, we're talking about the inward path of or direct path, as it is sometimes called, the direct path to the divine. And this is about your inner wisdom, because there is this field of consciousness that we're all connected to. We can't even say we're connected to, we are that field. We are an arising in consciousness. Your soul, my soul, is an arising in consciousness, having a unique experience and expression of divine being. And so, because we cannot be separated from that, we can find the teacher within and bring forth not only guidance in our everyday life, but deep wisdom. It's there. The treasure is hidden in the field. Do you know, I painted a picture to show you, talking about the treasure being hidden in a field. And I painted this a while ago, actually, and I wasn't sure how I would use it in a video. But we've got the field, the treasure hidden deep, and this need for the deepening. And you can see here that with a tree, all we see is what is above the ground. And we think that that's the tree. But in actual fact, for the tree to have grown in the way that it has grown, it has to have gone down in equal measure to how it's gone up. All right, can you see that it's the same distance above and below, as above so below? The roots go deep, deep, deep in order to sustain this life above here. And this is how it is in our own soul's journey, our spiritual journey, our soul growth. We're being called to a deepening, because if our roots are shallow, if we're not being sustained, if we're not finding what we're needing at a deep level in the practices or the institutions of the past, then we're not going to be around anymore. As Karl Rahner said, the future Christian will be a mystic or nothing at all. He was a Christian theologian. This could apply to any faith. Will become a mystic or will not exist at all. So the calling is for the roots to go down deep, and this is an individual journey. And this YouTube channel is really about me just sharing my individual journey. And it's great if people say that resonates and that helps me. It's wonderful when people say, well, it reminds me of something that I've been thinking about, and share their wisdom and experience. As did, let's go to that now, as did, I think it was it Zane? Zane is saying that my previous video, if you haven't seen it already, I'll link it up here. It was about the guides within, Christ and spirit guides, that's right. And I was talking about Sophia and Logos. And he's been looking at Jung's theory of circumambulation, which I don't know much about. I'm going to go to it, but the idea is the individual is constantly being guided by their interests to bring about their potential self, or the Christ within. And Sophia, we said, is about the desires, the natural desires. What is there in the world in potential? And he has developed his theory now. Zane, I'm talking about, has said that he thinks of the Father as potential. The Son is the will or logos, because in Jung's theory, Christ is the will, so it's acting on something, whereas Sophia is the desire, your impulses and interests and instincts. And there we have it, a workable psycho-spiritual model of the Trinity: Father potential, Son as will, Logos, and Holy Spirit as interests, as Sophia as desire, as your emotional experience. And it reminds me, actually, while I say that, I'm going to just read something about Jung. He was responding to someone who'd written to him, and this person must have been talking about the self. And Jung said, "You seem interested in trying to get back to the self." Aren't we all trying to do that? "Rather than looking at what the self wants you to do in the world." This is Sophia teaching, because Sophia is in the world. Sophia is all the sparks of light that were trapped in the world, if you remember, in the Pistis Sophia. Sophia is trapped in the world. She wants to get back to the light, the treasury of light, the pleroma, home to source, but she's trapped. The archons who rule the different aeons or levels of consciousness have stolen her light. And so the idea from that story, that myth, is that God is in the world, trapped in the world. And Jung interprets that as meaning that your potential, the potential in your life, is already here in the world. And he says that your parents, mother and father, bring you up to a certain stage of your life, and then you leave home and you go and find your way in the world, in the experiences of the world. And in a similar way, the church represents that institution bringing us up, giving us a foundation. But there comes a point where we outgrow it, and we have to go out into our lives and the experiences of our lives to have those experiences that are already there in potential. We find God in the world, in our lives, in the stuff that happens to us, in this plan that isn't someone else's plan. It's not like God out there has a plan for you and you've got to find your way to it, and it seems as if you're trying to get back somehow to the Father's will, and it's all very confusing. No, you have to be true to yourself and really listen to what it is that you want to do, and trust those inner promptings. Trust the desires that come from your humanness, the visceral desires, because that's how you'll know what your interests are. And you go out and experience, and you don't avoid living your own life by trying to find out what the church tells you should be doing, or what word God has for you on this or that. I used to do that all the time if I was applying for a job or thinking of whether or not to do this degree at university, or which university to apply for or whatever. I'm like, oh, they just show me your will. That's how we were trained to think in the evangelical church. What's God's will? Please show me your will, show me your way. If I could go back and do it differently, if only. But it doesn't matter, because I got it now. I understand now that all along it was just, what do you want? There is a video actually where I talk about this. I don't know if I'll ever find it. If I do find it, I'll link it at the end. And I tell my own story about how I would pray and get on my knees, and I would just want direction, and I would get myself in such a state of wanting to know God's will for my life. And in the end, it was as if he just shouted at me, "What is it that you want?" And that was easy because I knew what I wanted, but I was so programmed to thinking that my own desires were selfish, and I had to suppress those. I had to die to self and had to take up my cross and had to find out what God wanted me to do, and that there was this choice between my own will and God's will, because that was what the church was teaching me. And so to hear God shouting at me saying, well, then that's what I want. Why do you find it so hard to think I would want something good for you? I want you to be happy and fulfilled in your life. Be true to what you want. And it's a wonderful teaching. And it's the way of the mystic. Finding your own path and finding your own joy. It's not all about a cross. It's about a joy, and there's even a joy in the struggle. There's even a treasure hidden in the field to be found in the pearl, isn't it? The pearl. It's just come to my mind that inside the shell, it's because of all the friction. It's moved around, and that actually the pearl is made. I think so. I'm not quite sure, but that's what's just come to my mind. That even in the struggle and the chaos of life, the difficulties, there's something of treasure, of precious, of beauty to be found. I was reading this letter from Jung. He says, you're trying to get back to the self rather than looking at what the self wants you to do in the world, where for the time being, at least, we are located, presumably for a certain purpose. And so this is about embodiment. The universe does not exist for the sole purpose, that's S-O-L-E, for the single purpose, the sole purpose of man denying or escaping it. So lean into your life, as I said in a previous video, lean into your life. Don't think that it has to change in order to be of any worth, or your life has to be more like someone else's life, or that you have to find God's will for your life, because you'll never find that. It's a cul-de-sac, really. And it's I don't know if I should say this, but I will. It's a strategy, a tactic that the church uses to keep you dependent upon it and upon its teachings. It's a controlling mechanism. But you outgrow, and that's the deepening. You don't want your growth to be stunted, but if your roots aren't going deep enough, it will be stunted, and you'll be frustrated and you'll be unhappy. And so this is a path of joy. It's a path of happiness and fulfillment. Create your own myth. That's what Jung said. Create your own myth. Live your own life. The other thing that this drawing, this illustration could represent is that down below here is the unconscious. It's the unconscious, and this is the conscious mind perhaps that we're aware of, but all of the stuff under the surface that we're not aware of. It's dark down here. I don't mean dark as in value judgment, that it's negative. I mean it's not known to us. And this is really what this word esoteric means. It just means hidden from view, hidden from conscious awareness. So this willingness to draw wisdom up from below, that's Sophia energy. And I talked about my method of active imagination that I learned from Jung. Oh, I didn't learn it from Jung. I think it's something I've always done. But I kind of was validated because Jung used it too. I just think I've thought of it as daydreaming. But he had this method of active imagination where in deep relaxation he would allow himself to have conversations with characters that would show up and would gain wisdom that way. And he gained a lot of inspiration that went on to help him formulate his theories that have been really groundbreaking in the field of psychology. So we can draw on knowledge and information that perhaps wouldn't ordinarily be accessible to us. And I have to be careful when I talk about this too. You see, people sometimes feel uncomfortable with this because it's all about connection and contacts with others, with other beings, with loved ones that have passed, with spirit guides, with angels, with ascended masters. As soon as you start talking about that, some people will put barriers up because it's been a taboo. And some of us have been trained that it's taboo. So, you just have to go with what you're comfortable with when you're ready, but it's there, it's all there, and it tries to get up. And if it can't get up in your conscious waking awareness, it will come through dreams. And Janet, you commented that about your dreams, that this teaching about Logos being the inner guide made sense to you because you felt that you have conversations with people in your dreams, and you know that you do. You often don't remember it. You said, I wonder if I'm absorbing it on a deeper level, that I'm sure you are. That's what it's all about, this deepening. You know, I've mentioned before that we bought a piece of land in Ireland, and at the moment it's just a rundown dwelling, and we'll be renovating and extending the house, but it hasn't got any water or electricity. It's sort of got land around it, and it's in the middle of a forest, so there's no water supply from the mains. So what will happen is a big lorry will come, and they'll, with all the equipment, will drill down deep into the land, into the ground, until they find water. And then they'll put a pipe down, and we'll have this constant supply. We'll have our own channel. And there's a little analogy for us. We're not on mains anymore. We're creating our own myth. We're building our own dwelling. You know, and there'll be this supply of water that we can draw on, but only if we go deep enough to where the water is. So that, for me, speaks of finding these guides within, each for their own. And your inner guidance is absolutely perfect, perfectly customized for you. But the deeper we go, the source is the same. Okay, so this idea that it's this deep well, and the source is the same. Okay, I'm getting the image now of this deep sea, this deep well, and then above ground level, all these little like chutes going up, little pipes going up, everyone having their own little well. And at the surface, the little well, they all look different. People will have their own little dwelling going on around how that well spring finds expression in the 3D above ground, and what people do with it. But they're drawing from the living water that goes down deep. And so there'll still be this diversity, this richness, but it will be pure and clear. It's not being pumped in from pipes, from some, mains somewhere else, where people can put additives into the water and stuff. That's what just came to my mind then. But you get the idea. I'm sure the analogy falls down eventually, but the idea is that that we're being called to a deepening, and it's all good. So I hope that speaks to you in some way. Do let me know. I'd love to hear your views. And as I say, if you haven't seen the videos before this, then please do watch. They'll be linked at the end. Join me on Friday if you can for the live, and subscribe if you don't already. Welcome to new subscribers, by the way, because it is growing. I think it's because I'm putting a lot of shorts out, reusing some of the recent material and just reworking it into shorts, because there's a facility where that's easy to do now. On YouTube, they make it easy for you to do that, but I'm also looking back at some of the older material and getting lots of shorts out there. And so I think people are coming and perhaps finding out for the first time what it's all about. So we are reconnecting through going deeper and through sharing reconnective healing, which is just one way of manifesting the light, energy and information that comes from that deeper place within. Okay, and it's here to assist us in the evolution of consciousness, which is happening at this time on this planet. It's all good. So I'll see you again soon. Take care, all my love. Bye for now. God bless.